Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and there's a trend going in Hearthstone that feels like it's been going on for quite a long time, years at this point, and it's just come to a point where we gotta talk about. We brought it up many times, but looking at a card like Elise Navigator, she's awesome, she's great, but she's also a little too awesome, too great, where if you look at the stats currently in Standard, at Legend, she is in nearly 70% of Hearthstone decks, but this just isn't an Elise issue. This has been a neutral legendary issue that has literally been going on for years. And it's just been a weird trend that not only makes games pretty boring when you're facing the same cards over and over, but kind of deletes the whole purpose of class identity in Hearthstone, where it shores up the weaknesses of basically every class by offering them nearly everything. So we're going to go into what exactly I think needs to stop, what would help bring class identity back in Hearthstone. And as always, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like because it helps the channel out a lot. And reminder, today, Saturday, and Sunday, I will be streaming live on Twitch the Hearthstone World Championships, where there's plenty of Elise, starting at 7 a.m. Pacific, so an hour after this video goes live. We had a lot of fun yesterday. Hopefully you guys can come hang out. I'm co-casting with Theo. You can get drops, free packs, and watch some fun Hearthstone action, even if it's a lot about Elise. So yes, Elise right now currently in over 60% of decks, nearly 70%. And another card that also currently in a lot of decks, which is also in that image, is Zilliax, right? And both of these cards allow decks to kind of do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. Like currently, I laugh, I show this image of Hunter. Their class weaknesses are healing, board clears, and comeback mechanics. Zilliax is both a heal with the perfect module, Lifesteal Rush, and a comeback mechanic, not quite a board clear, but they also have Sylvanas, which is insane, a board clear that goes phase. Currently Discover Hunter, all of its weaknesses of Hunter are that deck's strengths for the most part, which is why I keep bitching that it's not a Hunter deck. It feels weird, and there's a lot of that going on. And yes, neutrals have that ability, and this hasn't always been the case in Hearthstone. Like win conditions or cards that were just super powerful typically were restricted to class cards. There's exceptions to the rules, of course, throughout the years, like a Zeph, right? Zeph was pretty nuts, or the OG Yogg, but they did nerf the OG Yogg, and Zeph did have a pretty strict limitation to it, whereas Zilliax and Elise does have a restriction, but Zilliax just play the card. Super good. But this trend to me started years ago, and it's continued ever since. And it's not that long ago, but it's starting to be long ago as time. It's crazy to think Castle Nathria is getting to be an older expansion already, but that's to me when this all really changed. If we look at legendaries, the neutral legendaries of this expansion were ridiculous. Prince Renathal ended up getting nerfed. It has been since reverted, but was like auto include in a ton of decks, control, combo, even aggro decks were running Renathal to an extent, because just having that extra health is super good. And yeah, really, really dominant card in its time. Theotar was like in every deck. Remember, this was 4 mana, and actually apparently in playtesting started at 3. Initial design, it started at 3, but regardless, it launched at 4 and was like super frustrating, but not really like a win condition itself, but it gave every class like insane disruption, right? Which is typically not something you would expect. But the big one, Sire Denathrius, right? We had 3 incredible neutral legendaries, and Denathrius basically gave every deck that played any decent amount of minions a win condition. This would just kill your opponent a lot of the time. And I think Bran was around or stuff, I don't remember. Regardless, Denathrius was insane, right? So you had 3 neutral legendaries that were in a ton of decks, and not only were they in them, they were like game winning style of cards. So it makes things very samey, very similar. This also gave lifesteal, recoverability. So we took a look at Hunter, right? That would be against its class identity. And when you have cards that are so strong that you want to run, that continues. But this trend really started with Nathria, and it continued out afterwards, right? We got Astalar right after in the next set in March of the Lich King, thing, right? This was like in every deck, and it got nerfed with the Mana Thirst on the original Astalor, the damage on the last Astalor, I believe the Mana Thirst on the 5-mana Astalor, and still this sees play in Wild today and was in like tons of standard decks until it rotated, and again kind of soaked up class weaknesses for classes, giving every class access to armor, giving every class access to a possible burst finisher. And again, it can get pretty samey, pretty boring when that happens, and we're just going to keep going through the expansions since then. It has some are hit and miss, but like ETC was in a ton of decks. This is a card we'll do a video on what I would like to see return to the core set in our year-end recap. I'd love to see ETC, but ETC was in a ton of decks. But I think this is like the perfect example of a great neutral legendary that's very popular, that it allows you to sideboard, right? It's not really that abusable outside of that. I mean, there's a wild quest mage with like Potion of Illusion and Romat, but overall, this is just a sick card. You love running it in a lot of decks. It doesn't typically win games, just really cool. So I don't want to use that as a great example of like destroying class identity or anything like that. This is like the poster child of an awesome neutral card that almost nobody can really complain about. I mean, I complain about everything, but most people can't. But Fizzle was another one that was in a ton of decks, had to be nerfed once per game, could do infinite loops, again, gave Hunter like infinite value in Discover Hunter. That Hunter deck is just not a Hunter deck. It never has been. But I guess for an expansion, probably the worst example, right? Like Festival Legends wasn't too bad. I think this is, if you're looking at a set in recent times where you would want neutral legendaries to be in line with that, you would look at this expansion. And I think it did a pretty good job, right? Festival did a good job. Good job, Leo. I'll give you that. But Titans, again, Ignis was like auto include for quite a while, getting that forged weapon, again, breaking class identity where you could get crazy burst in some decks, or armor gain or healing depending on what weapon you got. And at the beginning, it was in a ton of decks as that neutral win condition, but got power crept out by like other neutral win conditions. Same with like Yogg. Yogg at launch was absolutely stupid. You could make it 0 mana, and again, it gave like rogue hard removal, druid like crazy hard removal with 0 mana Yoggs. Like, it was stupid. They reworked it and then had to get nerfed again. And again, it was one of these kind of dominant neutral legendaries that allowed every class to be able to steal a minion, every class to have a neutral board clear most of the time, which was pretty frustrating, was pretty problematic in my opinion. We keep going with Showdown of the Badlands. I'll just show one card. I think you'll know what I'm talking about. Reno Lone Ranger. I think a pretty divisive card, giving every single class at launch the ability to poof the board, remove literally everything, and then give you infinite value with these hero powers. Not too big a deal, but regardless, Reno Lone Ranger giving every class that ability was pretty ridiculous. This got nerfed multiple times, and we got a pattern with these neutral legendaries getting nerfed not just once, but like twice. So that's like the stuff that has rotated since, but we're gonna keep going, right? Whizbang's Workshop, we talked about it. Zilliax has been nerfed, what, 6-7 times on the different modules? Still, in over 60% of decks, could be a win condition in itself, a board swing in itself. All the other legendaries, not really an issue, but obviously Zilliax, an absolute outlier. Gorgon Zormu for a while was like a staple in a ton of decks. Not a big deal in my opinion, got nerfed to 4. Not egregious, but Griftah, to me, is one of the most egregious cards, period. Destroys class identity. Every class all of a sudden can get burst, can get healing, can get a steal, and it's all reliant on RG. Did I roll the correct amulet? GG, I win. I didn't. GG, I lose. It is super frustrating to face. It's super frustrating to play. I just don't like this card. This card, to me, if it was a meme card and wasn't competitive, sure, but it's super competitive. Like, oh, less like a third of the lineups at Worlds have this guy right now. He hasn't been a play rate issue to the comparison of those other cards, but absolutely a problem in terms of like play patterns and class identity. So again, you kind of see the pattern there. Mayor and the Manager, another one, gave every class to incredible card draw, and when it launched, these cards were 0, right? You drew through three cards, they were 0. It was bonkers. But again, I don't know. I just feel like neutral win conditions. Like, this is basically a neutral win condition without a requirement. I've never been a giant fan of that. I just feel like whether this strong, it makes it frustrating. Although though it's not nearly as strong as it was. Insidious, another one. This is another neutral win condition that's been nerfed already and is still seeing play at Worlds currently, not only in Discover Hunter, but Cycle Rogue, giving those decks just endgame win conditions. And again, when they're neutral, it's kind of boring. I just feel like when we're talking about this, shouldn't big flashy win conditions be restricted to classes like a Shutterwalk, like an Odin? Like, I always feel like, you know, sure, they're frustrating to face, but when they're restricted to one class and it's thematic with that class, it makes a lot more sense. Where Insidious to me is like, why isn't this a Shaman Guard? This would be a great Shaman win condition, but now because other classes have all these tools, they can abuse it in a different way. Dungar was another one at 9 mana, cheating out a ton of minions. Again, tons of crazy strong neutral legendaries. The Great Dark Beyond, Kill Jaden, deleting, endgame win condition, or fatigue, right? It wasn't super dominant, but it definitely was in Worlds lineups last year. The Exodar giving every class access to insane armor gain or possible burn lethality. Grunty, okay, Grunty's not that great, but I gave it a 4, but Grunty, but yeah, Ceaseless Expanse, another example of a crazy neutral. Started at 100 mana, started as a 15/15, again nerfed multiple times, and it's a neutral board clear that, unlike a Deathwing, is actually just super advantageous. You gain tempo, it's 0 mana, it's just super good, and still seeing a ton of play at Worlds. Nexus Prince Jafar had to get nerfed as well. You see the power level of these neutral legendaries. Into the Emerald Dream, we have the whole Narlax, Shaladristle, Ysera, Fireack, all of these super strong, super meta defining, super high play win rate, and it's just crazy how strong neutrals have been since Nathria. Elise, obviously historically now is one of the best cards of all time. Egg of Kelos has popped up in multiple decks, again giving win conditions to, you know, Warlock, to Warrior, and all of that, and it goes on, except we do notice a trend. Time Waste, the latest expansion, Dio, sure, it's good, it enables some combos, but it's not too crazy overall, and that's it, right? The rest of the cards kind of suck. I mean, you got Murazan, which can be used thematically by, like, you know, extra turn classes, so Warrior has used it, not so much now. Priest has been using it with Zarimi, but it's a bit of a step back. So to me, it's almost like a refreshing thing to see an expansion with, like, yeah, Chromie, it sucks, not great, but it's kind of nice not to have neutral legendaries make up the sole win conditions of almost every meta. And to summarize this video, and what I would like to see change is I would like to see less neutral legendaries be meta defining, but be more supportive. Even in Dios is more of a support payoff card rather than you just put it in your deck and it's insane and it can do whatever you want almost. I miss the days of the powerful, strong legendaries winning games for classes being a part of their class, reflecting their class identity, doing what that class can do. And I think a great a symbol of that was the OG triple blood legendary payoffs for Death Knight, right? Getting all of those felt great. They felt, well, I guess maybe not as much for Frost DK, but definitely for, you know, Unholy and Triple Blood, it felt like you were playing the class, getting a big payoff, and you're not facing it every game because, you know, it's restricted to Death Knight. So I would love to see the neutral powerhouse of the, you know, legendaries go down to a level that we used to see where, I don't know, we can look at Ashes of Outland not that long ago. Well, Kel'Thas was there, but the rest were like, whatever. Or another random expansion, let's go with Boomsday, where, yeah, you had Snip Snap at a later date. You had Zilliax, but just a good support card, really sick card. And you had Mechathun, which is mostly a meme at the time, right? The win condition took so much effort to make work. Now you just get it. It's insane. And it, you know, gives you healing and armor and all that. That would be a change I would love to see. But let me know in the comments down below how you feel about it. Do you disagree, agree? I mean, there's probably a happy medium, but I just feel like it has been so so far gone for so long for these legendaries that, yeah, it would be nice maybe to dial it back. And if the last expansion is any indication, maybe that is the plan. And that would be, at least by me, really welcomed. Anyways, make sure to tune in again. Reminder, the whole World Championship stream going live after this video, like an hour later. Check that out. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.